Hello, everyone. It's been a while. Bookmark next time, Dumpy. Shut up, Neener. Shut up, Neener. No one needs that kind of attitude. Alright, I know it's been a hot minute since I've actually uploaded to YouTube, and I am sorry. I got preoccupied with life. And by life, I mean mental illness is fun. It's a very fun thing, and if you believe that, God, I envy your innocence. But anyway, um, I don't even have a bookmark. All right, I'm just going to have to remember. I mean, I have the channel for a reason. I should probably also fix that title from the last one because I didn't read correctly. Oh well. But anyway, yeah, chapter 15. Victor was standing just a few yards away. Trying to look inconspicuous, he turned his back to the shop that the children had just gone into, but he was keeping an eye on the entrance by watching the reflection in the window of the shop opposite. What were they up to in there? Victor wondered while he shifted impatiently from one foot to another. Are they buying one of those plastic fans? Or does their leader want to buy another mask for his face? Then Victor saw the girl step out of the shop. Hornet, Bo called her. She glanced around, acting very casual, checking out the gondolas by the bridge, and then started toward them. Hardly a minute later, the black boy left the shop. He was carrying a large basket and walked off in exactly the opposite direction. By the devil and his pestilences, what was going on now? Why were they splitting up? Well, it doesn't matter. My two suspects are still in the shop, Victor comforted himself. He adjusted his sunglasses. Next came the hedgehog. He skipped off towards the cake shop, which, a few steps away, filled the alley with its wonderful baking smells. The boy pressed his nose against the window. Perhaps all the others had to go home now to do their homework or have lunch. Perhaps Bo's story about all his friends living together in a movie theater had just been fantasy after all, nothing more. It made it a lot easier for Victor, of course. The others would go home eventually, one by one, leaving Prosper and Bo behind. I live in a movie theater with all my friends. Pah! He had to hand it to the boy. He knew how to spin a good story. Amused, Victor looked at the reflection of his face in the window. Hold on. Who was that coming out of the shop? Another one of the kids. Which one was missing? The masked one, of course. But hadn't he looked different earlier? Victor frowned. The boy stood in front of the shop door for a moment, looked around with a face that gave nothing away, and then kneeled down to tie his shoelaces. He straightened himself up again, blinked into the sun, and strolled, whistling toward the gondolieri, who were still out trying to net customers at the base of the bridge. Gondola! Gondola! They called out loudly. Victor would far rather have gone for a ride in one of those boats than stand around here. The cushions were so soft, and the gentle rocking of the boat along the canals always made him so wonderfully sleepy. All one could hear was the water splashing, slurping, and guggling against the sides. And then there was the gentle whisper of the city. Victor closed his eyes and sighed for a moment before opening wide with a jolt. "Scusi!" a voice said beside him. The boy who had been looking at the gondolas was now standing in front of him, grinning broadly. He had a very thin face and very dark, almost black eyes. Victor took off his sunglasses to take a closer look. Was this the boy in the mask who had strutted like a cockerel ahead of the others across St. Mark's Square? "Can you tell me the time, please?" the boy said, taking a very close look at Victor's checkered sweater. Victor frowned and he looked at his watch. 4:16, he grunted. The boy nodded. "Thank you. That's a nice watch. Does it also show the time of the moon?" His dark eyes sparkled with laughter as he looked at Victor. What does he want from me? Victor wondered. He's definitely up to something. He cast a quick glance towards the souvenir shop and saw with relief that Prosper and Bo were still standing by the window. They were gazing at the trash on display as seriously as if it were a treasure from the Doge's palace. "Are you English?" "No, I'm an Eskimo. Can't you tell?" Victor growled. He stroked his fake thin beard and sensed that it was beginning to develop a life of its own. "An Eskimo? That's interesting. They don't stray into the city too often," the boy said before turning around and strolling away. Victor just stood there, tugging on his beard. "Darn it," he muttered, and turned quickly to pluck the stupid thing from his lip. Then he saw that the girl was slipping back into the shop. and even the hedgehog was no longer glued to the window of the pescateria. But the boy with the black eyes was nowhere to be seen. They can't possibly have recognized me, Victor thought. Impossible. Then, to his bafflement, he saw the three of them come out of the souvenir shop in perfect formation with Prosper and Bo in the middle. Not one of them glanced at him, but they all giggled and whispered, and Victor had the distinct feeling that they were laughing at him. In no hurry whatsoever, they all strolled away in the direction of the Rialto. Keeping out of sight, Victor followed them at a safe distance. They had no patience in child surveillance, and, as he soon discovered, it was a very difficult task. They were so small, so much easier to overlook, and so quick. The alley they were walking down was very long and twisting, so it was just as well that from time to time one of the children turned and looked toward him. Victor tried to stay alert, but suddenly two large ladies stepped out of a cafe, laughing and arguing. They blocked the alley so that Victor had to push past their large behinds. He squeezed his way free and ran straight into the girl. The same girl who had been so engrossed in her book by the fountain, who had called her Hornet. She stared at him with hostile gray eyes, and before Victor realized what she was doing, she threw herself against him and lashed out at his checkered sweater, screaming at the top of her voice, "Let me go, you pig! No, I don't want to come with you! No!" Victor was horrified. For a moment he just stood and stared down at her. Then he tried to push her away, but she wouldn't let go of his jacket and kept thrashing at his chest. The people around them turned and stared at him and the screaming girl. "I haven't done anything," Victor cried, dumbfounded. "I've done nothing. Absolutely nothing." To his horror, a dog jumped at him too, barking loudly. And in the meantime, the other children disappeared into a side alley. "Stop!" Victor yelled. "Stop, you rotten little devils!" He tried again to free himself of the girl, but then something hit the back of his head with such force that he began to stagger. Before he knew it, the two large ladies were all over him, swinging their massive handbags at his head. Outraged, Victor bellowed back at them, holding his arms above his head, but the girl kept screaming, and the ladies kept thrashing, and the dog kept growling, sinking his teeth into Victor's jacket. The crowd around him grew ever more angry. "They're going to crush me," Victor thought. He couldn't believe it. He felt someone tearing a button off his jacket just as he was about to drop to his knees. A carabiniere fought his way through and pulled him up again. All around him, 100 voices shouted, simultaneously trying to explain what had caused the mayhem, and Victor realized that the girl was gone, vanished, just like her four friends. Chapter 16. The Conte's Envelope. "We showed him, all right," Hornet said, once they were all safely back in the hideout. She had a deep scratch on her cheek, and her cardigan was missing 2 buttons, but she was grinning from ear to ear. And look what I got in all the commotion. Proudly, she produced Victor's wallet from underneath her jacket. She flung it over to Prosper. "Don't get angry with me. Perhaps now you can find out more about this guy." Prosper murmured, "Thanks," and without hesitation quickly went through the wallet's various compartments. There were a few bills from some shop in St. Paulo, a receipt from the supermarket, a ticket to the Doge's palace, and that's the end of the list. He threw all this carelessly to the ground. He then held Victor's detective ID in his hands. He stared at it grimly. Hornet looked over his shoulder. "So he really is a detective," she said. Prosper nodded. He looked so desperate that she didn't know where to look. "Come on, just forget him," she said, quietly. She slowly stretched out her hand and stroked Prosper's face. He didn't seem to notice. He only looked up when Scipio approached them. "So are you looking so gloomy about?" the thief lord said, putting his arm around Prosper's shoulder. "We gave him the slip. Don't you want to see what's in the Conte's envelope?" Prosper nodded and stuffed Victor's wallet into his pocket. Scipio opened the envelope with great ceremony. He slit it open with his penknife while the others, sitting on the folding seats in front of him, watched with rapt anticipation. "By the way, where's the pigeon, Mosca?" Scipio asked as he pulled a photograph and folded sheet of paper from the envelope. "Still sitting in the basket. I threw it some breadcrumbs," Mosca answered. "And now let's get on with it. What's that piece of paper?" Scipio smiled. He dropped the empty envelope to the ground and unfolded the large sheet of paper. "The house he wants me to pay a little visit to is on Campo Santa Margarita," he said. "And this is the floor plan. Anyone want to see it?" "Oh, just give it to me," Hornet said impatiently. Scipio handed her the plan. Hornet took a quick look at it and then passed it to Mosca. Scipio, meanwhile, studied the photograph that had also been in the envelope. He seemed confused, as if he couldn't quite work out what he was looking at. What is it? What is it? The suspense made Riccio jump out of his seat. Go on, Scipio. It looks like a wing, Scipio mumbled. What do you think it is? The photograph went from one child to the other, and all of them looked at it in just as much bewilderment as Scipio. Yes, it's a wing, Prosper agreed after having studied it from all possible angles. And it seems to be made of wood, just as the Conte said. Scipio took the picture from his hands and stared at it. 5 million lire for a broken wooden wing. Mosca shook his head incredulously. How much? The question came simultaneously from Horton and Riccio. That's quite a lot, isn't it? Bo asked. Prosper nodded. Take another look at the envelope, he said. Maybe there's something else in there to explain all this. Scipio nodded and picked up the envelope. He peered inside and then took out a small card closely written on both sides. The wing shown on the encased photograph, Scipio read, is the counterpart to the wing I am looking for. They look identical. Both are about 70 inches long and 30 inches wide. The wood was once painted white, but this will certainly have faded, and the gold on the edges of the feathers are probably also flaked off from the second wing. At the base of the wing, there should be 2 long metal pins, each approximately 2 inches in diameter. Scipio lifted his head. His face showed disappointment. He had obviously not expected the item he was supposed to steal, which had made the old man's voice quiver with longing, would be a piece of old wood. Perhaps the Conte has one of those beautiful carved angels, Hornet ventured. You know, like they have in big churches. An angel like that is probably quite valuable, but only if it had both its wings. And he had probably somehow lost one of them. I don't know, Mosca shook his head. He went over to Scipio to have another look at the picture. What's that in the background, he asked. It's very blurry, but it looks like a wooden horse. Scipio turned the card over and frowned. Wait, there's more. Listen. The living quarters of the Casa Spavento, as far as I have been informed, are mostly on the first floor. The wing is probably kept there somewhere. I've had no information about any alarm systems, but it is possible that there are dogs in the house. Hurry, my friend. I will await your report with great impatience. Feed the pigeon bread and let it fly a little. Sophia is a friendly, independable creature. Sophia? I like that name, said Bo, peeking into the pigeon basket. Yes, but you must keep your cats away from her, Mosca teased him. They'll eat her whether she's got a nice name or not. Bo looked shocked. A wooden angel. Riccio wrinkled his nose and pushed a finger into his mouth. He often had a toothache, but today it was particularly bad. Not even a whole angel, just a wing. And that's supposed to be worth 5 million lire? Hornet leaned against the starry curtain and shrugged. I don't like it, she said. All the secrecy, and the red bear bearing part of it. No, Barbarossa is just the middleman. Scipio was staring at the photograph. You should have heard the Conte. He's completely crazy about this wing. It didn't sound as if this was only about the money he can get for the valuable statue. No, there's something else behind all of this. Do you still have my jacket prop? Prosper threw the jacket over to him. Scipio slipped into the long sleeves and sighed. Here, you better keep this safe. It's probably best in our money box, he said, handing Hornet the photograph, the card, and the floor plan. I've got to go. I'll be out of the city for 3 days. Until I return, you will observe the house. We have to know everything. Who comes and goes, the habits of the people living there, how many visitors when the house is empty, the best way to get in, and whether there really are any dogs there. You know, the usual stuff. Check whether the doors are marked in the right places on the floor plan. The house is supposed to have a garden which may be useful. Oh, and Prosper? Scipio turned to him once more. You and Bo had better not leave the hideout in the next few days. We're shaving off the detective for now, but you never know. Scipio pulled a mask over his face. As Scipio turned to leave, Riccio stood in the way. Listen, can we help you with this job? I mean, not just with the staking out, but with the burglaries itself. Can't you take us with you just this once? Riccio stuttered with excitement. We could keep watch and help you carry the loot. The wing's probably pretty heavy, and it's not like a gold chain or a pair of sugar tongs which you could just stuff into a bag, is it? What do you say? Scipio listened to him impassively, his face hidden by the mask. Riccio had finished and was looking at him apprehensively, but Scipio was quiet, thinking. Then he shrugged and said, "Fine." Riccio was so stunned that he looked at Scipio open-mouthed. "Yeah, why not?" Scipio continued. "Let's do this burglary together. Of course, only those who really want to." He looked at Prosper, who remained silent. "I want to do it," Bo cried, jumping excitedly around Scipio. "I'm really small. I could squeeze into little holes and stop it, Bo." Prosper's voice sounded so harsh that Bo spun around looking terrified. "I won't take part," Prosper answered. "I can't do it, and I have to look after Bo. You understand that, don't you?" Scipio nodded. "Of course," he said, but he sounded disappointed. "And about that detective," Prosper said nervously. "I found my aunt's card in his wallet. That proves that he was after Bo and me. And Riccio was right about his name. He's called Victor Getz, and he lives over in San Paulo." "No, he lives on the Grand Canal," Bo said, casting a rather dark look at his brother. "And I will go steal the wing. It's not fair. You're not Mommy." "Come on, Bo." Hornet placed her hands on his shoulders. "Prosper's right. Burglary is a dangerous thing, and I'm not sure whether I'll take part of it myself yet. But what makes you think the detective lives on the Grand Canal?" "He told me. Go away." Bo pushed her hands away and swallowed hard, trying not to cry. "You're all horrible. Really, really horrible." Even when Mosca tried to tickle him to make him laugh, Bo pinched his hand hard. "Hey, now listen." Prosper, looking stern, kneeled down in front of his brother and turned Bo toward him. You two seem to have talked a lot. Did you tell the detective anything else? About our hideout, for example?" Bo bit his lip. "No." He grumbled without looking at Prosper. "I didn't." Prosper smiled with relief. "Come on, Bo," Hornet said, pulling him away. "Help me with the pasta. I'm hungry." Bo trailed after her with a gloomy face, stopping first to stick his tongue out at the others. Chapter 17. Victor's Trance. Victor's head hurt for 3 days, but what hurt more than the bumps on his skull was his injured pride, taken for a ride by a bunch of kids. He ground his teeth every time he thought about it. The Carabinieri had dragged him to the police station like a common criminal. They had treated him like a child snatcher, and when, full of rage, Victor wanted to show them his detective's ID, he realized that the little brats had robbed him as well. Well, that was it. He would have no more pity for them. Enough was enough. While Victor cooled the lumps on his head with ice and warmed his sick tortoise with an infrared light, he thought about nothing else except how to find the gang again. He recalled every single thing Bo had told them until one phrase rang in his brain as clear as the church bell chiming across the square. Movie theater. We live in a movie theater. What if it was true after all? What if it wasn't some childish fantasy? Victor had told the police everything about Bo's strange clue, although they were now also looking for the children, since it was clear that they had stolen his wallet, and that he really was a detective. But Victor didn't want the police to catch the little thieves. "Oh no, I'll find them myself," he thought, as he sat on the carpet, tickling his tortoise's crinkly heads. "They'll soon learn that I'm not the idiot they think I am." Oh, rats, one of the tortoises was really sneezing quite worryingly. If he wasn't mistaken, that was probably Paula. The vet had assured him that Paula couldn't pass her cold on to Lando, which is why Victor had left him in the same carton. He brought them in front of the balcony, where the nights were now growing even ever colder, and he had made them a house under his desk. A movie theater. What had both said? Yes, the seats were missing, and the projector was gone, so it had to be an abandoned movie theater. Of course, one that had been closed and forgotten about by the owner. There weren't that many movie theaters in Venice. Victor opened the current telephone book as well as last year's edition and called every movie theater he could find. In most cases, he asked whether he wanted to book a ticket, but in most of them, the Fantasia, no one answered the phone. Another movie theater had no address listed next to its name. This one was called the Stella, and the number only appeared in the older telephone book. The Stella and the Fantasia. Well, that gives us two possibilities, Victor thought before reheating yesterday's risotto. Then he took the sniveling tortoise to the vet again. On the way back, he took a detour to the Fantasia. The movie theater was just opening for the afternoon show when Victor arrived. There wasn't really a big crowd. The only ones in line for tickets were two children and a young couple who immediately vanished inside a dark auditorium. Victor approached the ticket booth and cleared his throat. "Front or back?" said a lady in the booth, popping a piece of chewing gum into her mouth. "Where do you want to sit?" "Nowhere," Victor replied. "But I would like to know whether you've heard of a movie theater called the Stella?" The ticket lady blew a large chewing gum bubble with her brightly painted lips and let it pop. "The Stella? That's been closed for a few months now." Victor's heart leaped. "Yes, I thought so," he said. He answered the ticket lady's baffled look with a satisfied smile. "Do you happen to know the address?" He rested the box with a sick tortoise on the counter next to the register. The ticket lady let another gum bubble pop and eyed the box curiously. "What have you got in there?" "A sniffy tortoise," Victor answered, "but she's getting better already. So, do you know the address?" "Can I have a look?" the lady asked. Victor sighed and pulled away the towel, which kept out the cold. Paula, startled, lifted her wrinkly head and blinked a few times before hiding inside of her shell. "Cute," the lady cooed, throwing her chewing gum onto the wastebasket. "No, I don't know the address, but you could ask Dr. Massimo. He's the owner of this movie theater, and the Stella belongs to him as well, so he should know where it is, right?" "Presumably." Victor produced his notebook. "And where can I find Dr. Massimo?" "Fondamenta Bolani. Bolani? Bolani," the lady answered, yawning. I don't know the number, but his is the biggest house around there. He's a very rich man, our owner is. He only keeps the movie theaters for fun, although he still closed down the Stella." "Really?" Victor mumbled. He carefully placed the towel over Paula's box again. "Well, I may just pay Dr. Massimo a visit. Perhaps you have his telephone number?" The lady scribbled the number onto a piece of paper, which she pushed towards Victor. "When you talk to him," she said, "could you please tell him that the show was nearly sold out? Otherwise, he may just close down the Fantasia as well." Victor looked around the empty foyer, smiling. "I see what you mean. The line stretches right back down the alley." Then he went to find a payphone. The battery of his cell phone had gone dead again. He should have never bought the stupid thing. A booming voice grunted, "Pronto," into Victor's ear. "Am I speaking to Dr. Massimo, the owner of the old Stella movie theater?" Victor asked. Paula rustled around in her box as if looking for a way out of her boring cardboard prison. "Yes, indeed," Dr. Massimo answered. "Are you interested? Then do come along. Fondamenta Bolani, 223. I'm free for another half hour." Then there was a loud click in Victor's ear. He gave the receiver a surprised look. Well, he certainly doesn't waste time, Victor thought as he squeezed himself out of the phone booth. Half an hour, and the next Vaporetto shop was miles away. Well, it would have to be his aching feet again. Dr. Massimo's house was not only the biggest house on the Fondamenta Bolani, but was also the most magnificent. Victor stood admiring the front of the house for a second, its ornate columns and balconies, and how the wrought iron bars in front of the ground floor windows wound and intertwined, turning into shapes of flowers and leaves. A maid opened the door. She led Victor past the columns and into the courtyard, from where a steep and impressive staircase led to the first floor. The girl walked up the stairs so quickly that Victor hardly got a chance to look around. When he leaned over the balustrade? That sounds right. To take another look at the fountain in the courtyard, his guide turned around impatiently. Dr. Massimo is only free for another 10 minutes, she declared pertly. Victor could not stop himself from asking, "And what urgent appointment does the dottore have to keep?" The girl gave Victor a surprised look, as if he had just asked her about the color of Dr. Massimo's underpants. Christ. Victor followed after her, just fast enough for him not to lose her in the labyrinth of corridors and doors. All this for an address. I should have just phoned him again. Finally, when he'd gotten out of breath and Paula had probably gone quite seasick in her box, the girl stopped and knocked on his door fit for a giant. "Yes?" came the same booming voice that barked at Victor from the telephone. Dr. Massimo was sitting behind a massive desk in a study that was bigger than Victor's whole apartment. He received his visitor with a cool, appraising look. Victor coughed politely. He felt ridiculous in this magnificent room, with his tortoise box under his arm and shoes that showed quite clearly that he did a lot of walking for a living. Good day to you, Dottore, he said. Victor Getz. We just spoke on the phone. Unfortunately, you hung up so quickly that I didn't get a chance to explain what I wanted. I'm not exactly interested in buying your movie theater, but before Victor could go on, a door opened behind him. Father? A boy's voice said. I think the cat's sick. Scipio. Dr. Massimo's face turned purple with anger. Can't you see I have a visitor? How often do I have to tell you to knock? What if the gentleman from Rome had been here already? How would it look if my son barged into our meeting because of a sick cat? Victor turned around and looked into a pair of frightened black eyes. She's really not well, Dr. Massimo's son murmured. He quickly lowered his head, but Victor had already recognized him. His hair was tied back and straight in a tight little ponytail, and his eyes didn't look quite as arrogant as they had before, but there could be no doubt. This was the boy who had so innocently asked Victor the time, just before he and his friends had tricked him. The world was full of surprises. She's probably unwell because she's just had kittens, Dr. Massimo said in the bored voice. It's not worth calling a vet. If she dies, he'll get a new one. And then, ignoring his son, the dottore turned to Victor again. Do continue, Signor Getz, Victor repeated. Scipio was still standing behind him, stiff and silent. As I said, I'm not interested in buying the Stella. Victor could see from the corner of his eye how Scipio jumped at the mention of the movie theater's name. I'm writing an article about the city's movie theaters, and I would like to include the Stella. So I'd like your permission to have a look around there. Interesting, the dottore said, glancing out of the window to where a water taxi just pulled up on the canal. Please excuse me, I believe my guests from Rome are here. Naturally, you have my permission to look around the Stella. It's on the Calle del Paradiso. I'd be grateful if you say that it's to its city's shame that such a wonderful movie theater had to be closed. Apparently we only cater to the interests of tourists these days. Why was it closed down? Victor asked. Scipio was still standing at the door, listening intently to what Victor and his father were discussing. An expert from the mainland declared it unsafe. Dr. Massimo got up from behind his desk. He went over to a cabinet and opened one of its many drawers. Unsafe. The whole city is unsafe, he declared arrogantly. Now they'd ordered an extraordinarily expensive renovation. Where's that key? My manager brought it to me months ago. He rummaged impatiently through the drawer. Scipio, come and help me, since you're just standing there like a lemon. Victor got the impression that Scipio had just decided to sneak away, but he already had the doorknob in his hands. But when the dottore waved towards him, he brushed past Victor and walked, pale-faced and hesitant, towards his father. Dottore, the maid put her head around the door. Your guests from Rome are waiting. Will you receive the gentlemen in the library, or shall I bring them up? I'll come to the library, Dr. Massimo answered curtly. Scipio, would you ask Mr. Getz to sign a receipt for the key? You can manage to do that, I hope. There should be a tag on the key ring with the name of the movie theater. I know, Scipio muttered without looking at his father. Do send me a copy of your article as soon as it's published, the dottore said, already starting past Victor out of the office. There was a deathly silence now that he left the room. Scipio stood next to the open drawer and watched Victor like a mouse would watch a cat. He then suddenly made a dash for the door. Hold it, Victor called, standing by the door's way. Where are you going? To warn your friends? That won't be necessary. I don't intend to hand them over to the police, even though you did steal my wallet. I'm not even interested in the fact that you're obviously keeping a little gang in your father's dilapidated movie theater. I don't care. I'm only interested in the two brothers, the ones you've taken in, Prosper and Beau. Scipio stared at him wordlessly. Then he whispered contemptuously, You rotten snoop, before leaning forward and giving the carpet in which Victor was standing such a sharp tug that the detective lost his balance and landed with a crash on his backside. He still managed to hold on to the box with a tortoise. Quick as a flash, Scipio shot past him and ran towards the door. Victor threw himself to the side to grab hold of the boy's legs, but Scipio just jumped over him and vanished before Victor could get back to his feet. Fuming with frustration, Victor charged after him as quickly as his short legs could carry him. But when he reached the top of the stairs, panting heavily, Sepia was already leaping down the last steps. "Stop, you little rat!" Victor bellowed after him. His voice boomed through the huge house so loudly the two maids came running across the courtyard. "Stop!" Victor bent over the balustrade and suddenly felt distinctly nauseous when he saw the drop below. "I will find you, do you hear?" But Scipio just made a face and ran out of the house. Alright. We're done reading. Now we're going to play games. I promise to the lovely people of YouTube, I will return. I will return to books. I promise. I promise you. I'm sorry. It's been forever. That was fun. Thank you, Neener. But I promise, good people of YouTube, I don't know why you subscribe to me. It's nice having you on while I work on stuff. Thank you. Again, Neener. If you want to catch this live or catch me play games, because I play games, and some people say it's fun. I don't know why people say it's fun. I don't know, but if you like this kind of stuff, be sure to catch me ruin things in City Skylines or mess things up playing Bridge Constructor Portal. I should probably put a few clips on the channel. I should probably definitely put a few clips on the channel. And also follow me on the Twitter, because I post things there, and I usually retweet cute puppies. So if you like cute puppies and City Skylines, yeah. But yes, I promise I'll return books soon. I promise. I swear. Okay. Till next time.